Jacob. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, unto the house of the God of Jacob. For the Lord will go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. We will walk in his footsteps, and he will teach us his ways. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, unto the house of the God of Jacob. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, unto the house of the God of Jacob. For then he will judge many peoples, and decide for all nations, both far and wide. Swords will be beaten into plowshares, and nation will not learn war again. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, unto the house of the God of Jacob. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, unto the house of the God of Jacob. Unto the house of the God of Jacob. Unto the house of the God of Jacob. All right. That's a good way to end the week, right?
Amen.
Great song. Great song. Never get tired of that. I'm going to start this one slower so we can have some room to grow, you know. Don't want to be too fast at the end. I lay in Zion for a foundation of stone. I lay in Zion for a foundation of stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation, a sure foundation, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone. He that believeth shall live in peace. Wonderful Counselor, the everlasting Father. Wonderful Counselor, Almighty Prince of Peace. I lay in Zion for a foundation of stone. never play that the same way twice, though. I hope you don't mind. Once in a while, a little variation of it. So. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will surely answer them. And even while they are all yet speaking, I will hear their prayer. La 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 la.
Well, welcome everybody. Oops, I need to turn this on. Okay, am I on now?
Almost.
Dynamite. Testing, testing, testing. Hello, hello. I can work on you now, I guess. Green light's on, so we should be good. Hi, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Testing the mic while I talk to you.
Teacher voice.
Using my teacher voice, yes. You guys are way quieter than 500 7th graders in the cafeteria. What could be worse? Am I on now? There we go. Good. Thank you. So glad we made it. And, you know, I think, you know, it's, what's the date? The 24th of August. Is this officially the dog days of summer?
I don't think they ever came this year.
I don't know. It's been cold? Oh, Virginia. Huh. I don't know which planet you're on. Okay. Let's get serious. We have some announcements, as per usual. There's some financial information there for you. And there's so much financial information that we actually have a whole sheet given to the topic. And in our fixed rubber, hey, but guess what? It's the dog days, and then I feel fine, don't you? So it's good, you know. One of these days you're going to get here and it won't be, but you know, tonight is good, and so we'll worry about tomorrow, right? Tomorrow has enough worries. Nonetheless, we would be remiss if we didn't plan ahead. And so I am told that they had a donor that said that they would match up to $6,000 in gifts, and we are halfway there. Last week I think we were at 2, and now we're at 3. So thank you. And of course, it has to be in addition to your regular giving. Does that rain?
Yes, ma'am.
And we won't think about the roof that's upstairs, because it's upstairs. This one's good. All right, the Kolosi Havara, that would be us, are on next week for ONEX, so we can take note of that. And we are live streaming on YouTube, and so if you have relatives from out of town that wonder what you do on a Friday night, you could share that link, or God forbid you're ill, you could join us still. And so thank you, Dawn, for being faithful in your videography over there. You know, I was thinking, there are a lot of people that get involved with making a Shabbat evening go, and even a quiet night in August. And so, you know, we have our greeters. We have Sharon back there greeting, and we have Jenny stepping up, and we have Matt stepping up, and we have Virginia, and we have surely Jessica. Jessica is a real blessing to me, because she's a real blessing to Gary. And so, for 30 odd years, it was Gary back there, and Jessica is doing a fantastic job. And Jenny will be participating. So this is a service that we want you to feel involved in. And if you say, hey, I could do that, let us know, and we'll let you. All right. We have our holidays coming up, and starting with Rosh Hashanah on September 9th. And that service is at 7:30. Then on the 10th at noon, we have Tashlich, where we take our life in our hands and walk across Gulf to Bay Boulevard to the water. And we have lots of nice lights and stops. And so we make it, so far, we haven't lost anyone. But it's a very special service. It's actually one of the most reverent services, in my opinion. And if you can make it, I would recommend that you do. Then, of course, Yom Kippur on February 18th. Everything's rolling early this year, guys, if you haven't noticed. And anyway, all of those are here. So we have your blue sheet that you can tape on your refrigerator or magnet on your refrigerator and keep you abreast. Patrice started her class on the Minor Prophets this week, and then John starts his class September 6th, information on the seminary. And then game nights tomorrow night, August 25th, 7 o'clock. Bring your favorite game, and we do Havdalah, food to share, and it is a fun evening. And it's better than sitting home cereal binging on Netflix. Right? Nobody does that here, I'm sure. Okay. And with that, thank you again for being here. And I'm going to ask Jenny to come forward. And we're going to start this evening on page 144 with Matovu. As we welcome Shabbat and the blessing, Shabbat was created at the very, very beginning. God had it in mind from the start that we would rest on the seventh day and take time to focus on Him, and let's do that now.
Adonai, ahavti me'on beitecha, umkol mishkan kevodecha. V'ani eshtach ve'ekra'ah, evracha lifnei Adonai osi. V'ani tefilati lecha Adonai, et ratzon, Elohim ve'rav chazdecha, aneni be'emet yishecha. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. O Lord, through your abounding faithful love, I come into your house, and reverently I worship you in your holy sanctuary. I love being in your house, the place where your glory resides. Here I bow down to worship you, my Lord and Maker. Accept my prayer, O Lord, and answer with your great mercy and with your saving truth. Amen. How lovely are your tabernacles, O Lord of hosts. I long, yes, I pine for the courts of the Lord. My heart joyfully sings to the living God. One thing have I asked of the Lord, that I will pursue, that I may live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the graciousness of the Lord, and to enter his sanctuary. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me in the right path. With you is the fountain of life. In your light do we see light.
And speaking of light, the great blessing of Shabbat is that we kindle the lights, the Shabbat lights, and they bring the warmth of Yeshua and God's love into our sanctuary as we celebrate Shabbat. And we thank Lisa for coming. Shabbat blessings are found on pages 4 through 7.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hoit boi l'gayim v'natan lanu Yeshua Mishakenu ha'olam. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctified us by your commandments and commanded us to be a light for the nation, and gave us Yeshua our Messiah, the light of the world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav Tivanu Lahadlekner Shel Shabbat. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who set us apart by your commandments and command us like the lights, the candles of the Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Elohim Asher is found on pages 40 through 41. Please turn there, and we will join Jenny as she leads us through both the Hebrew and the English.
Elohim Asher Diber Mikadem Pamim Rabot Ubirachim Rabot El Havot Beyad HaNevi'im Diber Aleinu Behacharit Hayamim Ha'ele Beyad HaBen Asher Song Leo Reish Chol U'viado Gamasa et ha'olamim Uzohar kevodo B'tselem atzmuto Ben osei kol bidvaro Gav ha'gavura U'lacha she'asa Tihur chatayim Yashav limin Ha'gedulah. In the past, God spoke to our fathers through the prophets at many times in various ways. But now, in the end of days, He has spoken to us by the Messiah, His Son, whom He appointed the heir of all things, and through whom He made the universe. The Son is the full radiance of God's glory and the flawless manifestation of His reality. He sustains all things by His powerful word. After He made atonement for sins, He sat down in the place of authority beside the Majesty in heaven. True and firm, established and lasting, bright and faithful, loved and treasured, desired and pleasant, feared and mighty, ordered and acceptable, good and beautiful is this word to us forever and ever.
Our Tehillah Habrit Hadashah, taken from the book of Luke, is found on page 136 to 137. It is the bottom paragraph. Please join me with the English. Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because He has come and has redeemed His people. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of His servant David, as He said through His holy prophets of long ago, salvation from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us, to show mercy to our fathers and to remember His holy covenant. The oath He swore to our father Abraham, to rescue us from the hand of our enemies and to enable us to serve Him without fear in holiness and righteousness before Him all our days. Sephardi Kaddish is found on pages 156 and 157. Jenny will lead us, and we will join in those parts marked for the congregation.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, והומן יברח חירותי, וימלך מלכותי, ויצמח פורחני, ויקרא משיחי, וחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, ויגלו בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולם הומיה יתברך. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולם הומיה יתברך. Barak Bishtabak Viapar Viatromam Vietnase Vietadar Vietale Viethalal Shmer Kurashabarihu Lahe Lamin Kobir Khata Vishirata Tushbakata Nechamatada Amiran Beama Imaru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Tovim Aleinu V'yakol Yisrael V'imaru. Amen. Oh, say Shalom Bimramahu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'yakol Yisrael V'imaru. Glorified and sanctified be his great name in the world, which is created according to his will. May he bring about the reign of his kingdom and cause his salvation to sprout and bring near his Messiah in your lifetime and in your days and in the life of all the house of Israel, speedily, yes, soon, and let us say, Amen. May his great name be blessed forever and forever, eternally. Blessed and praised, glorified and exalted, extolled and honored, adored and lauded be the name of the Holy One, blessed be, who is high above, far above all blessings and hymns and praises and consolations which are spoken in the world, and say, Amen. May there be great peace from heaven and good life for us and for all Israel, and let us say, Amen. He who makes peace in the heavenly realms, may he make peace for us and for all Israel, and say, Amen.
Please stand now for the Amidah, and we will face the direction of Jerusalem. Tonight we're going to do paragraphs 6 and 7, found on pages 76 and through 79. The Eleno is done quietly, and we use these words to focus our own private words of prayer. We offer all our prayers in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. You may be seated. Ashraish is found on pages 42 through 45. We'll start in the middle of page 43 there, and Jenny will get us started, and we will respond to her with the next paragraph, and we'll read responsibly back and forth.
Ashrei sheyishama lemitzvotecha v'toratecha udvracha yasim al libo. Together, happy is the man who heeds your commandments, your Torah, and who places your word upon his heart. It is true that you are the Lord of your people and the mighty King to plead their case. It is true you are the first and the last, and besides you we have no King, Redeemer, and Savior.
For the beginning times and for the later times, your word is good and endures forever and ever. True and faithful, a statute which shall not pass away. It is true that you are He, the Lord our God and God of our fathers, our King and King of our fathers, our Redeemer and Redeemer of our fathers, our Maker, the rock of our salvation, our Deliverer, and our Rescuer from everlasting. This is your name. There is no God besides you.
From Egypt you redeemed us, Lord our God, and from the house of slavery you delivered us. All their firstborn you slayed, and your firstborn you redeemed. And the sea of reeds you divided and drowned the proud. But the beloved ones you caused to pass through, while the waters covered their adversaries. One from another did not remain.
Therefore the beloved praised and extolled God, and the beloved ones gave hymns and songs and praises and blessings and thanks to the King, God, who lives and endures.
You are high and wonderful, great and feared, who brings low the proud and raises the humble, who brings forth the prisoners and delivers the meek, and helps the poor, and answers his people in the time when they cry to him.
Praise our exalted God. Blessed is he who is to be blessed. Moses and the people of Israel sang a song to you with great joy. They all said, and we all say,
Who is like you, O Lord among the gods? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, awesome in praises, doing wonders? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tahilot oseh velei. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tahilot oseh velei.
Please stand now. In Kamoka is found on pages 88 and 89.
Ein kamoka Elohim Adonai ve'ein kamasecha. Malchutcha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha b'kol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai hoz le'mo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo shalom. Together, there is none like you among the gods, my Lord, and there is nothing that compares to your deeds. Your kingdom is a kingdom that endures for all eternity, and your sovereignty extends throughout all generations. The Lord reigns, the Lord has reigned, the Lord shall reign throughout eternity. The Lord will bless his people with peace.
And we remain standing as we turn to pages 34 to 39 for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ata et Adonai Elohecha B'kol lecha u'kol nafshecha u'kol me'odecha Hayu Hadarim Ha'ele Asher Elohim Tzachayom Alevecha Ve'shinantam Levanecha Ve'vidartam Ve'shivtacha Levetecha U'v'naftecha Ha'derek U'shaktecha U'kunecha U'shartam Leot Al-Yedecha Ve'hayu Totot Be'necha U'tavtam Al-Mezuzot Be'techa U'visharecha. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Blessed be he whose glorious kingdom is eternal. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your life, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as reminders on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates.
We now move into a Torah service. Remain standing. Vahiv and Sola is found on pages 88 and 89.
Vayehi ben Zoharon, Vayomer Moshe, Umar Omar Vayafutzo Oivacha, Vayanusu Misanecha, Mipanecha. Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah, Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah, U'devar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato. And it came to pass, whenever the ark went forward, Moses would say, Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. May those who hate you flee from before you. For from Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of the Lord out of Jerusalem. Blessed be he who in holiness gave the Torah to his people Israel.
The response for the presentation of the Torah is found on page 133.
The ark now unveils its treasure
To our eyes and minds and hearts.
Inside, the scroll of Torah stands.
It
stands there with all its richness and wisdom.
As we listen, voices speak, voices of our ancestors.
Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and Moses.
O God, they bring us your instructions for us.
Sarah, Rebecca,
Rachel, Leah, and Miriam speak to us as well.
O God, they move us to respond to your promises to us.
We are grateful for your words of Torah.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord calls.
that we may learn them, live them, live them.
What does the Lord require of you? To fear him, love him, serve him, and walk in all his ways.
All the Lord has said, we will do.
Torah lessons are found on page 92 through 95.
Mishabarach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. May he bless Jenny. May he bless Matt. May he bless Connie. May he bless Gary. And may he bless Janice, who have come up to honor God and the Torah. May the Holy One bless them and their families and send blessing and prosperity on all the work of their hands. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMavorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMavorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Bless the Lord who is blessed.
Bless the Lord who is blessed forever and ever.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who chose us from all peoples and gave to us the Torah. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
Teitzei lemelchama al oevecha unatano Adonai Elohecha biyadecha v'shavita shiviyom v'ra'ita b'shiviyah eshet yafat toar v'hashachta v'ach v'lachakta lecha le'isha. You may be seated. When you go out to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God gives them into your hand, and you have taken captives, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you have a desire, you may take her as your wife. Okay, so these two verses introduce a very practical set of instructions, however unpleasant the context for our modern ears. But it's important not to get distracted by a discussion of the evil of forced marriage or whether or not this passage condones misogyny, because to do so is to miss the point. God knows how easy it is for us to follow our base instincts rather than use good judgment. And this is true in high-stress situations like warfare and sex, both of which are addressed by this passage, but it's just as true for our everyday activities where we simply react to people or situations without thinking. In those situations, it's common to hear rationalizations for bad behavior, if the person even stops to reflect. But I believe God used this extreme example in this text not just to give specific instructions to soldiers, but to impress on his people that he expects them and us to rule our emotions instead of letting them rule us. Knowing how likely we are to fail at this, excuse me, a second lesson we can take from this passage is that if we wrong someone, we must act in a way that allows them to regain dignity. Sorry. The woman in this situation was to be a wife, not a concubine or used as a prostitute, which meant that she had legal rights. She was allowed to participate in the social protocols of mourning the loss of her former life and family. Now there's a prayer which can be inserted into the 15th paragraph of the Amida, which concludes with, "And make whole all the names that I have blemished in your great name," which I take to mean that even if our intentions are good, there may be unexpected negative consequences that have to be addressed. Now the Parsha reinforces this idea by putting this section just before those of the hated wife and the rebellious son. So the man in this passage may have technically done something that was legal by making this woman his wife, but it created this negative chain of familial strife and tragedy, all because he let his passion direct his actions. So, as a highly emotional person myself, this is a challenge to me to remember that while God created me exactly the way he wanted, he expects me to use the force for good, not for evil. Okay? So the Torah
remains a valuable and relative set of instructions, even as modern society claims that it's outdated. And I hope that you find the practical application in your own lives as I have in mine. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'll be reading from Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 17 to 22. You are not to deprive the foreigner or the orphan of justice, which is his due. And you are not to take a widow's clothing as collateral for a loan. Rather, remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and Adonai your God redeemed you from there. That is why I'm ordering you to do this. When harvesting the grain in your field, if you forgot a sheaf of grain there, you are not to go back and get it. It will remain there for the foreigner, the orphan, and the widow, so that Adonai your God will bless you in all the work you do. When you beat your olive tree, you are not to go back over the branches again. The olives that are left will be for the foreigner, the orphan, and the widow. When you gather the grapes from your vineyard, you are not to return and pick grapes a second time. What is left will be for the foreigner, the orphan, and the widow. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. That is why I am ordering you to do this.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nasa b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth and life everlasting planted in our midst. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
The Song HaTorah is found on pages 98 and 99. Please stand.
Bezot HaTorah
Asher Sam Moshe B'nei Bnei Yisrael Al Pi Adonai Eloheinu Moshe.
This is the Torah which Moses placed before the children of Israel. It is in accord with the Lord's command by the hand of Moses.
You may be seated. The HaTorah blessings are found on pages 94 to 97.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim, v'hatzav divrahim hanemarim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah Moshe Avdo, Yisrael Amo, Ulinviye Haemet Batzedek. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who selected good prophets, delighting in their words which were spoken truthfully. Blessed are you, O Lord, who chose the Torah, your servant Moses, your people Israel, and the prophets of truth and righteousness.
I'll be reading.
always have to adjust this. What they call vertically challenged. Isaiah 54, 1 through 5. Sing, barren woman who has never had a child. Burst into song, shout for joy, you who have never been in labor. For the deserted wife will have more children than the woman who is living with her husband, says Adonai. Enlarge the space of your tent, extend the curtains of your dwelling, do not hold back, lengthen your cords, make your tent pegs firm. For you will spread out to the right and to the left, your descendants will possess the nations and inhabit the desolated cities. Don't be afraid, for you will not be ashamed. Don't be discouraged, for you won't be discouraged. You will forget the shame of your youth, no longer remember the dishonor of being widowed. For your husband is your maker, Adonai Tsevaot is his name. The Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer. He will be called the God of all the earth.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Sur kol haolamim, tzadik b'kol hadarot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem shekol devarav, emet v'tzedek. Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emanim devarecha v'davar echad midvarecha acholu yeshuv rekam ki el melech ne'eman v'rachaman atah Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'ne'eman v'kol devarav. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, rock of all ages, righteous throughout all generations. You are the faithful God, promising and then performing, first speaking, then fulfilling. For all your words are true and righteous. Faithful are you, O Lord our God, and faithful are your words. For no word of yours shall remain unfulfilled. You are a faithful and merciful God and King. Blessed are you, O Lord God, who are faithful in fulfilling your words. Have mercy on Zion. It is the fountain of our life, and very soon deliver her who grieves deeply. Blessed are you, O Lord, who makes Zion rejoice with her children. Together, make us joyful, O Lord our God, with the prophet Elijah, your servant, and with the kingdom of the house of David, your anointed. May Elijah come soon and bring joy to our hearts. Allow no stranger to sit on David's throne or inherit his glory. For by your holy name you swore to him that his light would not be quenched forever. Blessed are you, O Lord, the shield of David. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen David.
Das Chaim is found on pages 96 through 97.
Et Chaim Lama Kazikim La Beton Keha Meusha Derakeha Darkeno Vekol Timoteha Hashivenu Adonai Alecha Ben Ashuva Kadesh Yameinu Kidem Hashivenu Adonai Alecha Ben Ashuva Kadesh Yameinu Kidem. A tree of life it is to those who take hold of it, and happy are those who support it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Turn us, Lord, to you, and let us return. Renew our days as of old.
Please stand now for with no Ko Yumar on pages 98 to 99. We're returning to the
Uvnucho Yomar, Shuva, Adonai Rivavot Alfei Yisrael. When the ark rested, Moses would say, Return, O Lord, to the myriads of Israel's families. Arise, O Lord, to your resting place, you and your mighty ark. Clothe your priests with righteousness. May those who experience your faithful love shout for joy. For the sake of your servant David, don't delay the return of your Messiah. Va'avor David Avdecha, al teshev penei mishachecha. Ki lakach tov natati lachem, torati al ta'azohu. I give you good instruction. Do not forsake my Torah.
At this time in the service, we typically greet each other here on the stage. Would you do the same? Turn around and speak to someone, shake their hand, and tell them they're glad to see them.
I told Jacob it was good to see him. It's been a while since we've seen him.
Okay. I figure why should we have all the hugs and greetings, right? All right. You may be seated. And Matt will now come
I could do more of that.
share a drash with us.
Okay. Oop. Hello. Other notes on here. Okay. Tonight's Parsha, Teitzei, lays down the law. And please don't think of that in a negative way. It's important to remember that the Torah was not given just to teach us morality, like a philosophical text, trying to convince us of the best way to live, or what good and evil actually are. I mean, the Torah does that stuff, but it's not. It was the constitution of the nation of Israel, and just like our constitution in the United States, it was the supreme law of the land. While the commandments, statutes, laws, and guidelines given in Torah do comprise a code for morality, these were also laws which literally governed the people. Sections such as Teitzei, filled with laws, can seem dry or boring. They can even seem beneath us in a way, as the morality contained in these verses seem obvious to us. Things like not stealing are morals we learn and adopt at a very young age. To review them now as adults, well, it seems like it's all a lesson for children. It's easy to think that we know morality more thoroughly now and we can just skip over these sections. However, such passages guarantee punishment for evil, restitution for damages caused by evil or by accident, and what's more, they preserve fair play, honorable dealings, and the dignity of human life, as well as the necessities of human freedom and responsibility. These are all vitally important. I also find these passages comforting, which may seem strange to you. We've all heard that people turn to the Psalms for comfort, or to Proverbs for wisdom, or to Job for perspective. But comfort can be found in all of these books. And there's comfort here too, even in the so-called dry legal sections. And how is that? Because it shows that God concerns himself with fairness and that he's concerned over breaches of basic human decency. Now, around grade school, children complain to their parents about some injustice, usually something petty, or something a bit unimportant, but which matters to children. Perhaps call it injustice of the playground or unfairness between siblings. The children complain or whine that whatever it is isn't fair, and sometimes the parents say that life isn't fair and just get used to it. On the one hand, this is a good lesson. We can expect unfairness in the world, and to some degree we must get used to it, shrug it off, and move forward. This lesson prepares us for adulthood, when there isn't always someone to set all the wrongs of the world to right again. On the other hand, we want to show our children that we should be looking to make the world as fair as possible, and that children should be able to come to parents to enforce the rules. In this way, we teach our children to become forces for good when they grow older. People who speak out against unfairness and speak up for the weak. People who are vigilant against wrongdoing. So to me, it is comforting to read this list of commandments, because it shows that God not only cares about grievous injuries and injustices like murder or theft, but also about smaller wrongs. It's very comforting to read verses where God cares about animals, such as the verse about not muzzling the ox as it treads the grain. And of course, it's especially comforting to read verses where God protects the weak, like the fatherless or the widows or foreigners. The poor are also mentioned here in commandments to not oppress them, and for people to even leave parts of their fields unharvested so that the poor can glean them, take what's left over for themselves. There are also protections for the borrower, such as forbidding the lender from taking their garment as a pledge for the loan, and forbidding taking their millstone for a debt, since it's their livelihood, it's their means of making money. God's concerned with fairness in all these areas. And all of these are specific commandments, and they all derive from the greatest two commandments of all, which are love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. That second one, loving others as yourself, is the very definition of compassion. God did not give the Torah as moral guidelines only, mere suggestions for us to consider following. He gave it as commandments, and he expects us to follow them. When we read this parsha and others like it, I encourage us all to sit for a moment and imagine what it might be like for the people mentioned in the text. Consider what it might be like for a widow, poor and childless, whose prospects for marriage and a family seem hopeless. The verses here in Teitzei would be an immense comfort to her, and perhaps the only thing keeping her alive is hope that things can someday change for the better. And perhaps that hope is only kept alive because of the gentler circumstances this text outlines and establishes in law. She has hope because the commandments provide a cushion, and without that cushion she might give up, lay down and die. Or consider the orphan, whose prospects are even bleaker. No family, no home, no one to invest in him, no one to help him build up his own future. Out of his great compassion, God gives hope and a cushion of more comfortable circumstances to such people, and they make the future bright with possibility again, and it's enough to live on. Have you ever indulged in kind of, strange thoughts, let your mind wander? Sometimes when I was younger, I would imagine, what if, it would be funny, but what if aliens abducted me and put me somewhere in Thailand or something? Just think I'm in Thailand, or China, or Russia, and I don't know the language, I can't communicate, people can't communicate with me. It would be extremely, extremely easy to cheat me, to rob me, to sell me into slavery depending on where I go, or to kill me, or say that I can work for such an amount and then not get that money at all, or get much less. And so that's the plight of the foreigner. It's a great hope when God says that he's an avenger of people like that, when you are that person. Anyway, our purpose on this earth is not only to take the harder commandments seriously, such as not murdering and not stealing, but also to take the parts about compassion and charity seriously, to invest in the downtrodden, to provide for the needy, and to care for the people who have no one to show them kindness. A little goes a long way. We've all heard it said that we should be sharing the good news, and we should talk about our faith. But for some people, good news is nothing more than some food. And until that need is met, there is no good news of what we would call the gospel. Just some religious talk, because they're starving. I remember in my youth going to my church's denominational youth conference. There's always sessions at these conferences you can go to and learn from, and I don't remember a great deal about these conferences. They were practically a lifetime ago, but this one black pastor was giving a talk, and his lesson was burned into my memory. I'll never forget it. I just wish I could remember his name so I could tell you who it was. Anyway, he said that lots of believers try to get people to go to church to be helped. Lots of churches have food pantries, and often you have to listen to a sermon first. The most important thing sometimes is the message. Don't get me wrong, sharing the hope of our faith in Yeshua is important. But the pastor's point was this: don't try to help people by trying to bring people to your congregation. Instead, help them where they are, and they'll follow you wherever you go. To the starving, bread is the good news. To the unloved and lonely, kindness and friendship are good news. Even if they don't follow you to learn about your relationship with God, you have given to the needy, or you have helped to heal a broken heart. And those are wonderful goals in themselves. Even if they don't follow and become more what we would call religious, you can add one mitzvah to your count of mitzvahs. And that's something to be proud of and to praise God for. Tellingly, how we treat the needy is listed as a set of criteria for entering into the world to come. As it says in Matthew 25, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." It's not simply a matter of belief, but a matter of behavior. Compassion is key, and it can be found in these texts, these so-called dry and boring lists of commandments, but I would urge you not to skip them. All of Torah is our life and the length of our days, and these texts reveal the heart of the compassionate God whom we serve. These texts light our path, a path of generosity and charity towards the needy who are around us. To illustrate this, Rabbi John is fond of a clip, I believe, from the detective show, if I'm not mistaken, Numbers. One of the detectives who is Jewish, I couldn't find the reference, but I think it's Dan. His name's Dan. Anyway, he visits a synagogue, and he concludes that wherever God is, it's how we are there for each other. I think that illustrates the point nicely. Another one to illustrate it is from one of my favorite stories, Les Miserables. And I say stories because I never finished reading the book, though I've started it quite a few times. And it's a very large book.
Yes, it is.
One of my favorite renditions is the 1998 rendition, starring Liam Neeson, Uma Thurman, and Jeffrey Rush. Now, the book is so large that not every character can make it in fully to any adaptation. And one of my favorite characters is in the beginning portion of the book. And since I've started Les Miserables several times, I've read the beginning several times. But it's the righteous old man who is the Bishop of Digne, who saves Jean Valjean and transforms his life. Now, Jean Valjean, a convict who's poor and starving, what is he? I think he's on parole and has to go to another city before his time's up or he'll be rearrested. But as he's traveling, he comes to the Bishop of Digne's home and receives a good meal and good company. In the night, however, he steals the fine silver that they ate the food from, and when the bishop catches him in the act, he bludgeons him over the head as he escapes. Valjean is caught and brought before the bishop, and he is told the officer is a lie, but the silver was rightfully obtained as a gift. The officers have brought him back to ask the bishop. The bishop confirms the lie, and it's transformed into the truth. What's more, he adds to it and says that it was very foolish of Valjean to have forgotten to take the fine silver candlesticks because they would fetch a very heavy price. After the officers leave, the two have some privacy to talk. "My friend," resumed the bishop, "before you go, here are your candlesticks. Take them." He stepped to the chimney piece, took the 2 silver candlesticks, and brought them to Jean Valjean. Jean Valjean was trembling in every limb. He took the 2 candlesticks mechanically and with a bewildered air. "Now," said the bishop, "go in peace. By the way, when you return, my friend, it is not necessary to pass through the garden. You can always enter and depart through the street door. It is never fastened with anything but a latch, by day or by night." Valjean was like a man on the point of fainting. Then the bishop drew near to him and said in a low voice, "Do not forget, never forget, that you have promised to use this money in becoming an honest man." Valjean, who had no recollection of ever having promised anything, remained speechless. The bishop had emphasized these words when he uttered them, and he resumed with solemnity, "Jean Valjean, my brother, you no longer belong to evil, but to good. It is your soul that I buy from you with this silver. I ransom it from darkness and from the spirit of perdition, and I give it back to God." Now, the character of the bishop was always this way, but again, the adaptations cannot tell the whole of his character. We hear more about him from the beginning of the book, which describes his godly way of life in more detail, far more detail than we have time for tonight. But I will share this bit with you. The Bishop of Digne was a studious man, and as he studied, he had the habit of writing in the margins of his books. I'll share with you what he once wrote, as recorded in the book of Les Miserables. And keep in mind that some of the books named in this quote are from the Apocrypha, which the Catholic Church considers canon, so if they're not as familiar. Anyway, on to the quote. "Ecclesiastes calls you the all-powerful. Maccabees calls you the creator. The Epistle to the Ephesians calls you liberty. Baruch calls you immensity. The Psalms call you wisdom and truth. John calls you light. The books of the Kings call you Lord. Exodus calls you providence. Leviticus, sanctity. Esdras, justice. Your creation calls you God. Humanity calls you Father. But Solomon calls you compassion. And that is the most beautiful of all your names." To that I will add, from Exodus 34, where God says of himself, "Adonai is God, merciful and compassionate, slow to anger, rich in grace and truth, showing grace to the 1,000th generation and forgiving offenses, crimes, and sins." Now, from his compassion, the bishop saved lives by giving out food and comfort and alms for the poor. This is an inspiring character, or it's inspiring to me anyway, and is an example for us, living out both tonight's Parsha, the spirit of compassion found there, and indeed found through the entirety of the Torah, and also Matthew 25. Our lives are not our own, and our goods are not our own. May we seek ways to strengthen and lift up our fellow human beings in the way we live. May we show the good news of God's compassion to all around us, and by our righteous, generous, and holy living, may we lead them to a closer relationship with God. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Please stand as Jenny comes forward. Elena was found on pages 102 to 107.
Aleinu l'sadeh v'adom hakol, la'tekedulai l'aseh bereshit, shelo asanu b'voya haratzot, ve'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samkachenu kahem, ve'kol aleinu kechal hamonam. אנחנו הורים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו ובשמיים ממעל ושפינתו זו בגבי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד את מלכנו ופסולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשארתו אל לבביך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים השמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אינו. It is incumbent upon us to praise the Master of all, to exalt the Creator of the world, for He has made us distinct from the nations and unique among the families of the earth. Our destiny is not like theirs, our calling is our task. We bow down and acknowledge before the King of Kings that there is none like Him. For He stretched forth the heavens like a tent and established the earth. Truly there is none like our Lord and King. As the chorus says, you shall know this day and reflect in your heart that it is the Lord who is God in the heavens above, and on the earth beneath there is none else. We hope, O Lord our God, to soon behold your majestic glory, when all abominations shall be removed, and all false gods shall be at an end. Then shall the world be perfected under the rule of the Lord Almighty, and all mankind shall call upon your name. For to you every knee must bow, and every tongue declare that you are God. Reign over us soon and forever. May the kingdom of David's greater Son be established forever. For then shall the words be fulfilled. The Lord shall be king forever, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. On that day the Lord shall be one, and his name one. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
You may be seated. It's up to you, dear.
I didn't sit.